Intergenerational trauma is trauma that is passed down through generations as a result of colonization. Europeans came to this territory in search of wealth and resources. Inconveniently for them, there were already thriving indigenous communities using this land. Agreements and treaties were made to establish a nation to nation relationship but were never honored by European settlers.
My mental straight from my ancestry.
One of the tools of colonization was the forcible removal of indigenous children from their homes and into residential schools in order to interrupt the passing of traditional knowledge and destroy indigenous cultures. Children were removed from their families as well as their traditional lands, culture, language, and community. In these schools, they experienced further losses through various forms of abuse, neglect, and degradation. In addition, the communities these children were taken from were traumatized by the forcible removal. Without the youth of the next generation, they lost hope for the future. These communities were also marginalized in other ways. They were confined to reserves and therefore unable to live off the land. These communities were confined, controlled, deprived of food and clean water. Many healing ceremonies and cultural practices that people could have used to help them cope with this trauma were outlawed, and some would turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance abuse and replacement.
Another tool of colonization was the 60 scoop. This was a practice of taking young indigenous children from their families, forcing them into foster homes and adopted into predominantly Euro-Canadian families. Many were mistreated or abused by their foster families and did not have any opportunities to learn about their cultures.
Turn me to zombie, I'm walking dead while I'm living.
Through these tools of colonization, each generation of indigenous peoples were affected. When the children who attended residential schools grew up and had children of their own, they often perpetuated the abuse they received or had trouble forming close relationships because of this trauma. Something similar happened to those who were ripped from their homes to be adopted by European families. They were unable to pass on traditional teachings or language as they had never learned them. Every generation affected by colonization has blood memory of the trauma they endured, which as recently has been understood in Western medicine as the passing of trauma through DNA.
How police war with no recourse, send you on your way. Break the chain. Still identify with those who have nothing, still live in fear. Break the chain. Been distracted by the glam, but don't question why we even.
Finally, all of these events that have built up the intergenerational trauma in indigenous peoples have bound them for far too long. It's a time to decolonize our minds.